Well, hello, and welcome to this online course on the art of close reading poetry. I'm Adam Walker. I'm a PhD student in the Department of English Literature at Harvard University, where I'm currently teaching and writing about poetry. Most of the material in this course I've used in the classroom. I've also used it to teach community lectures here in Cambridge to interested readers in the neighborhood, and some of the material I've used on my YouTube channel. But I'm excited to finally offer a new and more accessible version of this course to you on this learning platform. Let me tell you a little bit about the course. Poetry is the verbal art of human life and experience in verse form. But what is a poem? How does it work? And how should one read and enjoy a poem? These are the questions that I'll be addressing in this course. And by the end of the course, you'll be able to read poetry of pretty much any era in English with confidence. The modules and lessons here are asynchronous, which means that you can take them at whatever pace you like and in whatever order. You'll find that they're organized into modules with individual lessons, and each module has a main lecture. And some of them have smaller videos and other material that you can download as well. But whether you're a first-time reader or a long-time lover of poetry, it's my hope that this course will provide the groundwork for your own literary encounters and deepen your enjoyment of this amazing art form. Now, poetry is all about the encounter, and the way that poetry can sometimes be taught can be very tedious. There are a lot of technical terms like iambic pentameter, enjambment, figures of speech, all of which are very important and all of which we'll cover in this course, but you can sometimes get the sense that poetry is only to be understood by analyzing its constituent parts. Instead, in this course, I want us to think about poetry not as something to be dissected, but as something really to be experienced. When you read a poem, it changes your consciousness. I.A. Richards, the literary critic, talks about how this happens. After every experience, you're fundamentally different. You're a different person today than you were yesterday by virtue of the experiences that you've undergone in the meantime. The same thing happens for poetry. Your consciousness before you read a poem is different from your consciousness after you read a poem, especially a good poem. It leaves something behind and changes you. Sometimes that difference may be slight, other times it could be life-changing. And this comes with a warning. There's a poem by Yeats called The Wanderings of Angus that I think really exemplifies the kind of encounter that can happen when you're reading poetry. The poem goes, "I went out to the hazel wood because a fire was in my head, and I cut and peeled the hazel wand and hooked a berry on a thread. And when white moths were on the wing and moth-like stars were flickering out, I dropped the berry in a stream and caught a little silver trout. When I had laid it on the floor and went to blow the fire aflame, something rustled on the floor. Someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossoms in her hair. She called me by my name and ran, disappearing through the brightening air. And though I am old with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she is gone, and kiss her lips and take her hands, and walk among long dappled grass, and pluck till times and times are done, the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun." It's this kind of transformative encounter that can happen. The Angus who went into the cottage with the trout is radically different from the Angus who left the cottage moments later in search for the girl. Something was changed. And so it may happen for you that you'll be reading through a book of poems and suddenly you'll be struck with something. It'll be as if the poem calls your name and suddenly something is recognized. And you might go searching for that your entire life. This might seem like an extreme example, but history is full of such literary encounters. You might think how King Josiah found this old book of the law in a dusty corner of the temple and read it and was totally transformed, and the entire nation was transformed as well. You might think of Solon of Athens, hearing his nephew sing a song of Sappho, and who was so struck by the words that he wanted to learn how to play it and die. It was like his life was complete afterwards. Take St. Augustine, for example, who heard the words tolle lege, pick up and read, and found a Bible and read one verse that changed his life and the course of Christianity forever. You might also think of William Hale White in the 19th century, who picked up a book of poems by Wordsworth, read his Tintern Abbey, and was suddenly awakened to something beyond himself. He said that that moment that he read the poem changed his history and awakened in him an ability to love nature and natural beauty. You might think of Gerard Manley Hopkins, the Victorian poet, who, once he read Old English poetry, was completely changed. And this Old English poetry influenced his own poetry. There's also W.H. Auden, who had a similar encounter with medieval English poetry, and whose poetry was suddenly changed afterwards. So you never know what kind of literary encounters with beauty await you in a poem. Like Angus going out to the hazelwood and returning home, you may find that a poem could sometimes change you forever. And it's these kinds of literary encounters that I'm interested in facilitating through the art of close reading. As I teach this course, my guiding principle is that a true, genuine, imaginative encounter with poetry happens through close, reverent, deep reading, an imaginative engagement with poetry, not just analyzing the figures of speech, but figuring out how it's working upon us dynamically and what exactly language is doing in a poem. Good poetry provides the template for human life and experience. It rouses our conscience. It wakes things up that are in us and dilates our moral capacity and sympathy and sharpens our attention to the natural world and connects us in different ways to others and to things beyond ourselves. So welcome to the course. I'm so glad you've joined me, and I will see you in the next videos.